The body of work that I've produced for The Social is a series of photos called Home, and it's Home 1, Home 2 and Home 3. And each work, I guess, is a documentation of an installation that I've placed in different Australian environments, consisting of a generator, a fuel generator, a fan, and a big flag, or a white flag that says Home. I wanted the installation to be really an imposition on this natural environment. I wanted the environment to be natural as possible. Like the beach, we had to find a place that didn't have footprints. To me, that was just a little detail that I wanted. I didn't want a clean beach. I wanted crap washed up on there, and it to be sort of a natural environment where the only footprints I think were our own, and I tried to get rid of them as much as I could. But I wanted to give it the appearance of a self-sustaining system. And for me, that's sort of like a representation of how I see the idea of home, or the structure of home, as this sort of superficially self-contained system where you look at it and go, one thing controls the next, which controls the next, and it's all within itself. But really, when you look at it further, it's entirely independent on the outside world. Its resources are required from somewhere else. Everything has been imported. These things didn't grow; they've been imposed on it, and it's something that I'm trying to put across with the idea of home. And it sort of goes back into the other work that I've been producing, where it's the idea of that them and us mentality. The idea of this is my home, I live here, I grew here, you flew here, that sort of persistence that comes through. In Fatal Shores, Robert Hughes talks about Australia's colonial currency, and that's what they talk. Well, that's what he called the first generation of Australians that was born here. They were real products of the colony. And I, being half Caucasian Australian, coming from convict ancestry, and the other half of me is Malaysian, or my mother is Malaysian, and they weren't colonised in the same way, but they were economically colonised. They became, a part of the British Empire. They were part of the Commonwealth, the host of the Commonwealth Games sort of thing. And I see myself as sort of a byproduct of this colonisation, the biohazard that's kind of popped out at the end that they weren't really sure was going to be there, but then afterwards is there. I'd been reading, I just finished reading Fatal Shores and Australia's Birth Stain, and I was thinking about early settlement and the idea of the harsh situation that it was, and these people, the convicts that had come over in that first fleet, and that with nothing, and they sort of planted their flag and made it their own. And also thinking about it in the context of coming from Western Australia, even though the white side of my family is originally from New South Wales, but living in Western Australia and their colonial history as not starting as a penal settlement, but starting as people who bought land, or not bought land, were given land by the government, and then only took convicts on later, and then with a last to give convicts up. And I think it's a peculiar sort of state of mind that I think resonates still in West Australian society. I've talked about them and us in my work before, talking about the other, and in regards to cultural or ethnic boundaries or religious or whatever it is that separates one from the other, where you claim yourself as one and the other, you draw a line in the sand and everyone else is the other. In the West Australian context, which is related to the work, but it's not integral to it's not explicit in what I'm trying to do, but it was sort of influencing the way that I was thinking as I was making the work, is that West Australia's got this sort of thing where it's a them and us attitude, with us versus the rest of Australia. There's a lot of things thrown around, how much we hold up the country economically with our mining boom, and there's this really kind of almost a desperation to hold on to this West Australian identity. And it's, to me, a reflection of that sort of landed gentry attitude that we had in colonial times, where we didn't want to get rid of the convicts. So we didn't want to have them at first because they were convicts and they were bad. And then when we had them, we wanted to cling on to them because it was our bonded labour. Well, I say our bonded labour, but it's not my ancestors. But it's that mentality. It's a different mentality to here. I don't want to say a class thing, but it's maybe internally it is. You know what I mean?
It's ironic that a lot of the people who have that class mentality now are what you classically call a bogan.
Yeah, exactly. This better than you attitude, which I find kind of really quite grating, but in a horrible way. It's the same type of thing as that. It's the same type of attitude that sort of infiltrates in Australian society, and you see it bubble up at the Cronulla riots, for example. We're better than you, fuck off, we're full, that sort of attitude. And it's almost like an insecurity, and I wonder if it's come from these sort of colonial beginnings, this convict start? Like, is it really a convict stain that has like persisted through this? Like, what is the, I understand people want to protect what's theirs, but there's this irrational sort of rejection of everything that's not.